Welcome to our posts. Today, we will see stories of entitled parents. Cousin abandoned my niece at my house while I was camping. Over the week, my husband and I went on a camping trip before summer season with its glorious warm weather was officially over. We weren't at home and had no cell reception where we were. We left Thursday, September 7th and returned on Monday, September 11th. While we were away, my cousin left my niece still strapped to her car seat outside my house door on Friday, September 8th and sent me some text messages. Remember, I had no cell reception where I was camping. I would never have known while I was gone. I saw the missed messages after I returned home. It wasn't a request to ask if I can help her. It was simply a message notifying me that she left my niece in front of my door along with a bag with her stuff for the weekend. She did not ask me beforehand if I could help her babysit. There was no possible way for me to know. Even if I knew, I would have still declined unless it was a medical emergency in the family and they had no other choice. I live in a rural area where everyone is on 30-acre plots of land, so no one knew my niece was there. I had no clue. The neighbors had no clue. My niece was literally abandoned in front of my door until Saturday noon when my parents came by to drop off my parcels that were delivered to their house. That's when they saw my niece. My parents called my aunt and had her come pick her up. I can only assume that my parents, my aunt and my grandmother scolded my cousin for leaving my niece at my door. When I got home, all I saw was the initial text message telling me that my niece was dropped off at my place. Then a string of very rude text messages and voice messages from my cousin calling me irresponsible for leaving my niece outside and endangering her. Because what if the coyotes in my area attacked the helpless infant? I'm just so frustrated. Next story. My father-in-law had a meltdown because I proved he doesn't know his son. So me 34M and my husband 30M do our damnedest to not spend an abundance of time with my father-in-law. He's a cowardly narcissist who says, "hot dog," unironically. Ever since I came into the picture almost 7 years ago, we have simply not meshed. A great deal of that is due to the fact that I've spent those years instilling confidence and boundary setting in husband. Father-in-law does not like being told no. We literally got kicked out of a restaurant one time because he couldn't accept that they wouldn't give him a discount. So needless to say, our interactions are nothing more than the exchanging of fake pleasantries. So last week we're over there for our quarterly visit. The way these evenings typically go is that my husband occupies my father-in-law while my mother-in-law tests out her new English vocabulary on me. This time, my husband is doing the bulk of the talking to both of them because he's excited about the new organization he's working with. Father-in-law keeps trying to change the subject because it's been 2 seconds since the subject of the conversation was about him. My husband and my mother-in-law both snap. I'm not entirely sure what they said as my Spanish is still terrible, but it amounted to them telling father-in-law to shut the F up and listen. Father-in-law gets obstinate and essentially tells my husband that no matter what the organization is, it'll never compare to the work he did in his youth. Father-in-law literally just hiked through Central America with a white savior complex until things got violent and he came back home. My husband understandably storms out with my mother-in-law hot on his tail. Awkwardness ensues because I'm chuckling at father-in-law. Father-in-law, he never spoke to me like that until you came along. Me, I know. I'm so proud. Father-in-law, you've changed him. Me, no. This is who he's always been. You just never noticed it before. Father-in-law, I know my son. Me, what's his favorite color? Father-in-law, what? Me, what's his favorite color? It's the same one he had as a kid. Father-in-law, what? Me, name 2 of his interests. Father-in-law, they don't make any sense. Me, here's an easy one. What's the name of the organization he's working with? Father-in-law, what? This wannabe Bob Ross, granola-eating mofo couldn't answer. My husband said the name of the organization like 5 times that night. Me, you want to know the sad part? My parents can answer each and every one of those questions, and they've known your son a fraction of the time you have. Cue the screeching in Spanish. Being yelled at in a foreign language by a non-native speaker is a surreal experience. Obviously, my husband comes in and yells back, and it blows up even more. But the part that stands out is the fact that father-in-law still refused to admit that he just hadn't taken a genuine interest in my husband in years. Like, bruh, you don't even know your kid's favorite color. Hello? Now my husband is contemplating going no contact, and I can't blame him. Next story. I put vegetables in all my food so my roommate's kid won't eat them. The mom is upset. I posted this in another forum, but received a lot of comments telling me to post it here as well. I 26F live in a rented house with a single mother 30F and her son 6M. I had another person living with me, but they moved out and the mother moved in. I don't mind living with her and her kid. It's fine and we kind of do our own thing. I spend a lot of time at my boyfriend's place or working. Our work schedules collide, so we really don't interact much, but when we do it's fine. No issue there. I want to start with saying that she clearly struggles financially, but I don't think it's an excuse. I don't make lots of money either. However, I've noticed that my food would go missing or portions would be taken from it. I assumed it was her kid, so I asked her if she'd stop him from eating my food. I was calm about it, and she just said she would. It didn't really upset me when it first started. It started getting annoying when I'd get home from work and expect to have a meal's worth of leftovers in the fridge only to see it picked through or just gone. I kept bringing it up, and she started getting annoyed with me bringing it up. Just from observing them, I realized that neither of them ever eat vegetables. And judging by the food that would get picked through and the food that would be untouched, anything with green in it was avoided. Orange chicken would be gone, but chicken and broccoli would be untouched. So I started putting vegetables in everything. I find vegetables to be delicious, and anything green or not a potato does not get eaten. So I could mix some bell peppers into the food, and it would be fine. I make a big portion of vegetables pretty frequently anyway, so I just started putting it in everything I eat. If I had leftover mashed potatoes, I'd pour green beans in and mix it up. If I had leftover cheeseback fries, I'd pour broccoli all over it and mix it in. Usually my homemade stuff has vegetables in it, but I started making sure everything did. I made a pot of mac and cheese, the kids' favorite thing, and poured in roasted Brussels sprouts, which is actually delicious to me, and I'm eating more vegetables, so it's a win-win. She had been seeming annoyed, but we were all home when I made the pot of mac and cheese. She was in the living room and saw me get out the Brussels sprouts and was like, "What are you going to do with that?" And I poured them in. She said I was being greedy and annoying. I just said, "I like Brussels sprouts," and that was it. She said, "We need food," and I told her to go get some. Or stop buying only prepackaged things and your money will go further. I think she sees this as some big act of revenge, but I just simply want to be able to eat my food. Also want to add that the sharing is not the issue. It's expecting to have food there, and it's not. So often I'd be working a long day and get home expecting to have a meal's worth of food and it all be gone. Or I wake up in a rush and had my food ready to eat in the morning only to find it gone. So now I have to skip breakfast. If she would simply text sometimes, "Hey, is it okay if we eat food item asterisk," I would know and know to make other plans. I would stop for food or know I have to whip something up when I get home. Also, I think eating the last of someone else's food is crazy and rude. If someone makes a big pot of something and you ask for a serving, sure. But if someone made something and there is one serving left and you eat it without permission, that is evil as hell. Next story. My daughter's father wants to use her as therapy for his wife. I 33F going to preface this by saying my 6-year-old daughter's father 37M, I'm going to call him Jeff, has never been my romantic partner. We had a one-night stand. I don't like people calling him my ex, since it makes it seem we had some kind of emotional attachment. He was never involved after I told him I was pregnant, and actually wanted me to terminate the pregnancy. but I decided to raise my child alone since I have enough money to raise her without child support. For the whole pregnancy and the first 4 years, Jeff was not in the picture. On my mother's recommendation, I did send him pictures and invited him to special events, but he always replied he had no interest in my daughter. 2 years ago, he reappeared and began demanding parental rights. When I didn't do what he wanted, he sued and was told no, he was not getting parental rights. He was given the offer to pay child support and then we can revisit giving him actual rights, but he has refused. He has the money, much more than me, but he refuses. I still offered to let him see my daughter in a casual manner, no child support needed, with the agreement anything legal, medical, or educational will not involve him. He pushed the boundaries and we had a fallout. After that, we didn't hear from him for almost 6 weeks before he called to meet for Christmas. After much discussion, I agreed to bring my daughter over on the condition my daughter's godparents could come. Thus we went over for Christmas dinner, and finding out Jeff is married and had never told his family he had a child. It was great to be judged by a bunch of strangers. It was uncomfortable the whole time. I'm going to use fake names, but let's say my daughter's name is Katie. His wife kept calling my daughter Gabrielle. Not the actual name she used, but it was that different to my daughter's name. The wife was also very physical, trying to pick up my daughter or parent her. I would block her or tell her to please let me deal with my child. The whole time she pretty much ignored me, but Katie didn't seem nervous, so I decided to just bide my time. I hit my limit when my daughter said she needed the bathroom, and this stranger went, "Oh, Gaby, you need potty? Let mommy change you." My daughter hasn't worn diapers in a while now, and she's more than capable of going alone to the bathroom. I immediately told her to stay away from my daughter and that we were leaving. The woman started wailing that I was kidnapping her baby girl and tried to lunge at me. Her in-laws got in the middle and hold her, consoling her and saying that we weren't leaving and for her to calm down like she was the victim. At that point, I just glared at Jeff and told him he better explain or I would be calling the police. He asked me to speak in private in another room and that I could just leave my daughter with his parents. No way that would ever happen. Katie's godparents took her with them despite the wife having a full meltdown. Jeff and I spoke outside, and he explained that he and his wife recently lost a daughter. I'm not going to give specific details on that. All I'll say it was sudden and nobody's fault. And as I can only imagine, it had caused some psychological issues to his wife. Apparently, he had the brilliant idea that having Katie pass as their lost child would help his wife, without telling me. And that's why he wanted visitations and parental rights. He pleaded for me to leave my daughter with him for a little bit. I asked him what was his plan when his wife heals. His response was disgusting. "Well, I'll just send Katie back with you and it will be just like before." I told him he was insane if he thought I would let him use my daughter like that. What his wife needs is therapy with a professional, not feeding her delusions, and I would not let that woman within miles from my daughter. He told me I was being cruel and didn't know the pain of losing a child. I agreed with him, but reminded Jeff that my priority is not his family, it's my child. What he and his family do to work through their grief has nothing to do with us. I also told him to call his lawyer because I am making sure he never has contact with my child. So that's what I'm bracing for. He's been blasting my phone since Christmas, but I can easily ignore him. My daughter and I are doing a small travel vacation. This isn't an update, just something I feel needs to be said. My daughter is set for life monetarily. She has a trust and I make really good money in my position. If she was 18 right now, I could put her through college without a loan. She doesn't need child support for quality of life. If I could get child support and never worry about her father trying something, I would be suing him in a heartbeat. But after talking to a lawyer and realizing the risk, I've taken the decision that child support or possible inheritance is not worth my child's safety. Safety is always first. January 6, 2024. Hey everyone. Happy New Year's. This isn't so much a real update as just letting people know we are home and safe. My daughter is spending the rest of her vacation with her godparents on another trip while I work on things. Moving might be something I'll be looking into, though that is a long-term plan considering all it takes. I won't share too many details on what my lawyer is going to be doing, but we are absolutely going to push for enroll. I might not post for some time, at least not until things settled. I do appreciate all the support and good advice. I'm taking a lot of it into account as I plan how to move forward. Next story. You're ruining my body. I made it. It's mine. So this happened 2 years ago when I got my first tattoo. I was 21 and still living with my controlling mother. She was shocked when I told her I wanted to get a tattoo, but she didn't physically stop me. I got home with my upper arm tattooed solar system with watercolors to find her in the living room, crying. She started talking about how I ruined her body by getting that tattoo, about how she made my body so it's hers. She asked if I cried while getting it. I told her I didn't, because it didn't really hurt at all. She yelled at me, "Of course you cried." I cried, because I knew what you were doing to my body. She calmed down after a while and even said my tattoo looked nice, but I felt really gross after all that. She also flipped out when I got my hair cut. My sisters and I were always told that she'd sue any hairstylist who dared to cut our hair, so it took me till I was 19 to finally get a short haircut, and she cried when I got my first piercing too. This woman is nuts sometimes. A little edit. I do not know how my grandmother would feel about this whole thing. My mother cut contact with her before I was born, because she was physically abusive towards my mother, my mother's siblings, and my siblings. Next story. A lady wanted me to put ice in my drink. I answered with stupid. I was chillin' in a Cafe Rio yesterday, and I decided to go fill up my drink. So as I was standing in line to fill up my drink, this lady and her maybe 6-year-old kid were also in the line. Right ahead of me, in fact. So, the kid was about to go get his drink when his mom stopped him and told him to put ice in his drink first, because everyone gets ice in their drink. So he moved out the way, and I went ahead to get my drink instead. I'm halfway through filling up my drink when this lady puts her hand in front of my face and directs my eyes towards here, and she's pointing at the ice machine. "Everyone puts ice in their drink," she told me as she was pointing at it, and apparently I was tired as hell because I looked her dead in the eye. And without cracking any smile or emotion whatsoever, I told her, "Oh, my bad, I'm allergic to ice." She had this shocked and confused expression. Then she and her kid just went on their merry ways. I filled up my drink and sat back down, and after looking at my phone for a few minutes, I look up to see her real angry, arguing with a random worker, pointing at me. Honestly, I decided it wasn't worth it, and seeing as I was finished eating, I just threw my stuff away and bounced. I woke up this morning thinking, what the hell even was that? I hope you guys like this video. If you did, make sure like, comment, share, and subscribe the channel our posts.